Everyone to our first live stream of the XPRT community live stream. Today we're going to talk about DevOps at scale. Let me first introduce everyone. Here is René.
Hi, René, DevOps consultant at XPRT.
Jasper.
Jasper Gilhuis, Agile coach and DevOps consultant at XPRT.
And our special guest today, Sander.
Sander Ettema, Head of Development Automation at Rabobank.
Okay, well, my name is Geert van der Kruijsen, also a DevOps consultant at XPRT. And today we're going to discuss together with Sander on how to do DevOps in a large enterprise. But first, we want to start this show with some
some things that
to
to challenge you about, Sander. So the first question that we have is, who, in your opinion, will win the cloud war? So we have AWS, we have Alibaba Cloud, or we have, of course, Azure or Google Cloud. So what do you think? Who is going to be the winner? And you have 60 seconds to just talk about your answer.
For now, I think it's Microsoft, but things will move on. And the reason I say Microsoft is because all the others have more of their own use for the cloud proposal, for their cloud offerings. And Microsoft is more targeting on it as a primary business objective in order to stay alive. So you can see this, recognize this by the fact that Linux is the primary platform on Azure, where Windows itself is smaller.
Wow, that's very good insight.
Yeah, so they're willing to cut in their own meat in order to be successful.
Okay.
Good one, thank you.
Yeah.
next one.
So next question, and I think that's very close to your heart in a Rabobank context. What do you prefer? Insource your resources, or people, I'd like to call them, or outsource your people?
Oh, this is it's a mean one at this moment. It's a heavy subject within our organization.
First choose.
Insource.
Why and how, especially?
How?
How are you going to win the war on talent?
Yeah, that's the problem. First of all, you start with the why of your organization. So you need to have a really clear vision of what your added value in society is, and what it is that attracts people to your organization. What makes you special? Why I go for insource is, well, if you can't get the people to work for you, then why hire them somewhere else? First, start to inspire people, and in DevOps environment, we state that IT is a strategic business enabler instead of a cost center. And if it were my organization, I would never outsource my strategic competency.
Good one.
Yeah.
Ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. So, true or false? Big corporates, like Rabobank, which is pretty big, are unable to do true digital transformation.
False.
Yeah, why?
Yeah.
That's the easy part for us.
The answer was the easy part for me. Well, what is true digital transformation? Banking is already 99.9% digital. So there's the non-digital part of currency is just a tiny part of the total economy. So in that case, the question is, are we able to make it as efficient as we want to, or as people demand us to? At this moment, there's still a legislative monopoly for banks to be there. But Google and Apple already proved that as a tech giant, you can get a banking license. So,
we're not unable. Who do you see as a biggest competitor? Are they other traditional banks, or maybe those tech giants?
Well, Apple introduced Apple Pay.
Yeah.
And within a week, they were the largest mobile payment service provider in the United States. So I haven't seen a bank that has done the same trick.
So what the underlying question is, of course, the big corporates, are they on time to do through the digital transformation, or are they already disrupted beforehand?
Well, the disruption is not only coming from the tech giants, it's coming from the PSD2 as well, for European legislation, which heavily commoditizes payment services. And payment services, it's a product now. You can just get it from the cloud at this moment. So the primary the thing that we need to be different is in marketing, identity, and the same as may also with insourcing, the why we are here. Because that's not only attracts our people, our employees, but also our customers, and keeps the retention high.
And maybe the trust factor is here.
Yeah. So, but that's all about consistency of why you're here and how you translate it into your services.
Cool. So we'll keep that one, the fourth one, to the latest, because that is a nice bridge to the next thing that we are going to talk about. So, fourth question: Spotify or Netflix?
I have both. Why do I need to choose?
First choose and then the why.
Sorry, Netflix. Yeah, because of the open source libraries they offer to the world.
Okay.
Yeah. Spotify, for me, Spotify's main legacy at this moment is the Spotify model, which.
And they do something
not a
with
model,
music. They do something with music as well.
Yeah. No.
I like how you immediately go to the cultures of these companies.
But the thing is, the services are not I want both of them, so I can't choose between music and movies. I love both of them, and I have both of them.
Yeah.
Both have a family package, so that doesn't distinguish. So I don't want to choose on that part. So then I need to choose from an organization, and I'm heavily in favor of implementing Gaius Gorilla and Gaius Monkey within our organization. Yeah, and that's things that really distinguishes from a vision point of view Netflix from Spotify for me.
Cool.
Yeah, and there's a lot of more tools from Netflix that are valuable. Yeah.
Okay, so last question, and I think that is also a nice bridge. So then you can continue talking on how your vision is there. Is what do you prefer, alignment or autonomy?
I prefer autonomy, but just autonomy just doesn't get it. If you want to be totally autonomous, you go live somewhere in the desert on your own. Yeah, there is no autonomy without alignment. So even in my home, we are autonomous as a family, but I still have neighbors. I still need to pay taxes to get to the road to bring me to my work every day. So, everybody should strive to, for within organizations, for teams that are autonomous as possible, to leverage the skills and intellectual capacity that's within those teams. They know how to solve problems. We just have to facilitate them with the right problems to solve. But if they would work totally autonomous, then we can do that, but then let them pay also embed their own HR services, legal services, compliance services, risk services, whatever. And if it's still profitable, then you can outsource it or sell it as a separate organization. So given the fact that probably wouldn't be profitable, there is some alignment needed to, as an organization, act in a consistent way and to be able to stay within regulatory boundaries, for instance.
I think this is something that a lot of corporates are struggling with. Where should we put this autonomy, and how far should we align? How far should the autonomy reach? Can you tell us a bit about the history of Rabobank and how that is the case in there?
Yeah. We are originating from the Raiffeisen banking model, which were bankers helping each other, getting the funds to expand or continue their businesses. And as such, we used to be a combination of 100 plus banks, autonomous banks, combined in a corporation that is a central organization at this moment. So autonomy is within our organizational identity, because as a central organization, we're not the bosses, the boss of our local banks, but we used to be the promoter or the facilitator of those banks. The thing is, as all the banks together decided for something to happen, then as the central organization, we need to roll this out, of course, and in that could have a local consequence for teams to, for banks to have to migrate because the central office says so, because it's a central decision made by all the banks together. And this heavily, it reflects in our organization. So there's always been a lot of autonomy with the teams. We have kind of a mix of bottom-up and top-down kind of steering, where we, which allowed us to be very innovative. We used to be the first bank on the internet within the Netherlands. We're on the one of the inventors of ideal payments. We're one of the, I guess, I'm not really sure, but I think we are one of the first banks to implement ATMs in the Netherlands. So there's a lot of innovation originating within from Rabobank, due to the fact that local teams are allowed and have the ability and capacity to follow the things they think are valuable for the organization. On the other hand, in the recent years, more and more regulatory constraints were imposed on our organization. So, and as a result, it's very hard for the many teams within Rabobank to stay aligned with regulation that's translated. If you have a risk or a security or a business continuity framework, which also have autonomous teams, then they really, it takes very much effort to have these teams translating, autonomous teams translating the separate guidelines or separate policies for the other teams to use to stay coherent. So as a result, at this moment, we need more alignment for teams to be able to take responsibilities to stay within regulatory boundaries.
And on scale, how many teams are there currently at Rabobank?
Well, we're a large organization, so if you look at the IT organization of Rabobank, we have 420 plus teams working on software development and maintenance. Yeah, and it's many of the teams are fully DevOps. There are still some elements within our organization that need to separate the both.
And if you say fully DevOps, do you mean they actually build and run the software, or is it only the build part and the run part is still done by another organization, or is there a mix in between? And how do you approach it? What's the vision there?
Yeah, well, it's just like fully DevOps is like nirvana. There's always something to improve. So, and you're never done, because continuous improvement is within the model of DevOps. So you're never done. Mm-hmm. We have. If I'm talking about DevOps, I mean teams of pizza size doing development and ops for all of the functionality within their circle of influence. So under their responsibility. Mm-hmm. So yeah, for me that's Dev and Ops in one team. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So introduces nice discussions, by the way, where developers see what they actually build. Yeah. And what it means to maintain those shitty lines of code, and then start writing down new features in order to get rid of the things they now need to maintain. So
and for example, when you talk about autonomy within the teams and some maybe shared capabilities like security and compliancy and we can think of more of things like that. Yeah. So how does that work within the Rabobank? How do those like specialized capabilities interact with the different DevOps teams?
There's something we need to grow. So we have this HR services centralized, of course. We have centralized risk and compliancy services. and more we're embedding those competencies within the teams. And there's one of the things we're striving for is to have a security ambassador in every team. If you look at it from a T-shaped model, should have the most expertise on security related subjects within this team. But the other part of it is you don't only need the security specialist within your team. You also need policies and principles that are transparent for the teams to use, so they know what they need to adhere to in order to stay secure and compliant. So that's the second part, where we are translating our policies and gathering them so we can make one consistent model for the teams to.
Do you have something structured for that, or what is the vehicle to get that across to all of your teams?
If you look, if you just at this moment we're working on it from the whole risk focus of Rabobank, risk acceptance of Rabobank. But if you look at it only software control distribution, we have a document called the DevOps Security Blueprint, and this consists of 6 principles, of which we say that if teams stay within, then that secures that they're working in a secure manner.
Okay.
So, but working in a secure manner can still mean that I can work in this very secure manner, building very fraudulent code. So it doesn't close all loops.
Yeah. Could you elaborate a bit more on these principles?
Yeah, of course. First of all, you have that all changes in code need to be traceable. Yes? I need to see every version of the code that's there, every change in code being made. Second one is there shall be 4 eyes. So it's third one is thou shalt have security code, security testing in place. So we need a kind of static code analysis functionality, but also if we're using external components, there shall be checking of those components on existing or known vulnerabilities. Then there shall be release orchestration to be able to have your value stream repeatable, and therefore if you have an error, it will happen the next time. It will happen again unless you structurally improve the problem. Then there's a more difficult one. The access to production data shall be only there for the people that need to be there. So you must secure your data. And the last one is all processes in your pipeline or in your software control distribution processes are auditable, which effectively means that we want all logs and want to have traceability over the whole road from production back to the code change being made.
And to make it a bit more tangible, because what I see a lot with these kinds of lists or principles, that it's a principle, but there is no real way to actually validate or implement them.
Yeah.
So do you have controls or checks or tools or processes in place that actually can validate on these principles? And can you give some examples there?
Yeah, of course. First of all, if you look at it from, can I first go back to autonomy versus alignment a little bit, and then go to tools?
Yeah, sure.
Because if autonomous teams are very valuable, but they get a lot of freedom, and with this freedom comes a lot of responsibility. And
that's a Spider-Man quote.
Oh. So Netflix it is. But this great responsibility comes with accountability. So you can get all the freedom you want, but you need to be accountable for all the consequences. So with this DevOps security blueprint I just talked about, there's these principles that are hard standards. It's a principle. 4 eyes is like, it's easy, right? Everybody can. I don't know people that would say that for production services, you don't want another colleague to check what's being changed. So everybody says it's a no-brainer. So on this principle level, there's all kinds of no-brainers, like the 6 I mentioned, but for data in transition, you would want to talk about, how do you call it?
SSL.
Just encryption, of course. Yeah, that's a no-brainer as well. And then SSL is one of them. But so on this from an accountability point of view, or standards point of view, or responsibility point of view, then it's the 6 principles that teams need to adhere to. Then there's a lot of freedom, and we build a platform that allows teams to adhere to the standards while being serviced by others, by my department. So they don't have to do the hard stuff, and they can worry just about code, building the right products for the customers. On the other hand, if they can't use these services, then the accountability still remains. So they should prove that they're working in a secure manner, adhering to the DevOps security blueprint principles again. So that's how the game should be played, because that allows the teams to get a lot of freedom while remaining secure, proven secure. And if you don't combine the two, just give a lot of freedom without the accountability, then it will become a mess. So that's where alignment comes in. Thou shalt prove that you...
Yeah, but on the other hand, it makes it very flexible for them, so they can either choose the easy way and comply to some things that are in place, or they can choose the hard way, but then they have to do all the things themselves.
Or at least they need to prove that those elements where they deviate from the preferred practices being offered in the preferred platform don't break the chain. So if they can prove that their own solutions for 4IS, for instance, if there's the integrity of the chain is okay, in order, then there's no problem.
Okay.
So 4IS, which tools are there? Of course, pull request. You want to have all the elements of the DevOps security blueprint, just like everything in DevOps, as far to the left as possible, because over there it's cheap to fix things if they go wrong. So we have code 4IS is just pull request.
Okay.
Already delivers a lot of discussion about branching strategies, yes or no, mainline development. So there's solutions for that, but pull request is de facto industry standard, so why not adhere to it? Second one is the code. The first principle was, of course, the changes in code being visible. That's Git. You can use anything else, but so like Subversion is there, but we offer Git. Within Git, you have pull requests, so that's the second standard. Then there's security testing, and this is where we have multiple tools is. So at this moment we use Fortify for static code analysis, but there's also what's it called? The OWASP checker, where some teams are.
OWASP SAP.
OWASP SAP. We're using with some teams, so just as penetration tests. We're using Nexus Lifecycle for dependency checking, so known vulnerabilities. And for Docker, we're using Docker EE, where also if we pull in a build from external, or there is a build, then the known vulnerabilities will be shown as well. And it's very funny to see, because we also do vulnerability checking in production, all the way to the right and there's always a lot of discussion, because all those findings, which are tens, go back to the left and then deliver a whole lot of work where people say, none added value add, but it really needs to be done. It's just a whole lot at once. And while using services like Nexus Lifecycle, and in this example Docker EE, we had this build being pulled in for Tomcat, and it showed 6 vulnerabilities. And the first thing that happened was teams coming to me with a discussion if they could use this. I never had this discussion before, but
because it's new.
but the transparency leads to the right discussion within the team. So and then my question was, of course, well, which version of Tomcat is this? Well, it's the latest. Yeah. Well, then one thing you do know is that the previous version will have more.
Yeah.
So please go live, and the fix will be there, but try to work around the vulnerabilities.
Yeah, but providing the insight earlier, it's just much more easier to solve.
Yeah, maybe they can be mitigated in different ways.
Yeah.
And they're visible right at the source.
Mhm.
So if there is a vulnerability over there, the DevOps teams know how to fix it. If they get feedback from another team, from production, for which they think everything went through the pipeline, so it's okay, that they don't know how to fix it. But the thing is, if they're in control with all the dependency checkers that are in your pipeline, then probably, but not definitely, probably you won't get many findings in production using another tool like we do. Yeah, so that's nice. Yeah. Then from that's security testing. Then we have, of course, the separation of production data, which is at this moment is more like an identity and access management kind of things subject, but also we're using tools for test data anonymization, synthetic test data generation, and things like. So there's multiple tools for that. And we have the auditability is, of course, you need to build a data store.
Yeah.
So there's, and it might have an API. We're at this moment building, so at this moment within Azure DevOps, which is one of the platforms we're using, we're using Azure Analytics for the reporting, for the data gathering, and then Power BI at this moment for the aggregated reporting, but more. But to service the team, we're using interfaces within Azure DevOps to allow the teams to see whether they are working in a compliant or in secure manner.
Yeah.
So this is kind of neat.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Outside of Azure DevOps, it's still working on that because it's a more it's a less integrated patchwork framework. Yeah. But also patchwork. There's many different tools. So integrating of those tools need some.
Yeah, it's again the autonomy. So people can choose other tools as well, but then they're responsible themselves to deliver these kinds of insights.
Yeah. So at this moment we have two platforms. We already have Azure DevOps as a platform for teams to use. That's where they're being serviced to work in a secure manner. So we have these pre-configured, so they can never destroy their own projects and their own data of everything they did, because otherwise they would be able to remove data showing that they built something with bad intent.
Yeah.
So that's, but everything else is open. And we have been asked to build a second environment for teams that are already using, for instance, Jenkins or other tools, and this needs more integration effort from us to build something which looks like offers the same functionality. Yeah,
good.
Nice. So in terms of time, do you have anything more to add that today, or that this is something that I would like to say or to add in terms of DevOps that skill? Otherwise, we have one final question for you, I think.
Now, we've been talking about more technical conceptual subjects, but one of the main topics that surprised me is that if you want to change the way of work within your organization and your culture and everything, it just demands training. So there's you can't expect to say we're moving towards DevOps and then expect people to just change. It doesn't happen overnight. So you need to teach people and offer them training or training facilities, offer them playgrounds where they can just destroy things like you would do at home just to find out how things work. Yeah. And then from there, while playing around, have them more and more adopt the preferred practices.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
the cultural part is perhaps it's not about the tools. It's what the Agile Manifesto says, right?
Yeah.
So it's not about the tools. The tools are important, mainly to facilitate the teams
Mhm.
to work in an easy manner. But
So should choosing for DevOps be a C-level decision to, well, we want to embed this in our culture? Because you can't do it bottom-up only.
So that's the answer already, right? It must be a C-level decision, but it demands C-level follow-up as well. So it's you need to separate the what and the how. So on a C-level, there's a why. There needs to be an urgency, which could be just created from an ambition point of view
Mhm.
to win in the market,
Yeah.
and
Which is a valid reason.
that's it's, from a competitive point of view, it's the nicest reason. I'm an athlete, but used to be an athlete, so it's competition is the nicest. And financials is never, because if you're looking for cost reduction, you won't get there. You get agility, you get quality, you get all the, and perhaps as an effect you get cost reduction, but it's never the aim. So that's a C-level decision why you want to go there and what you expect teams to use. But then also on a C-level, you would want to see the DevOps transition happening, and there you just want to know the deployment frequency. And we used to ask teams about what's your deployment frequency at this moment, or how much time does it take you to go from a single line of code to production. And if you ask people, you get all kinds of answers, and it's always the happy flow you get told.
Yeah.
So in the end, you don't want to ask people, you want to measure. And measure is either using a stopwatch or just get it from the tools. And the last one is the one I like the most. So on a C-level, in the end, there's also, I want the metrics. I want to see frequency improve. I want to see the change fail rate. I want to see the mean time to repair. The metrics everybody that's involved in continuous delivery knows. And you don't want to use them as for the blaming game, but you want to just see that there is improvement and that people are able to deliver them in a technical manner. Because if they're able to deliver them, then they have the ground layer for continuous improvement.
And that goes along with the messaging of the C-level. Because if they don't message that to the employees, they think that is a blame game. So that goes hand in hand with the trust part and stuff.
From a C-level perspective, we need to become faster. For those kind of messages, or we need to be able to become more agile or whatever. And I want you to go there, so I need your metrics. And as long as you're not able to gather the data and from a technical point of view, deliver them to the centralized view, then ask my help. That's the C-level involvement you want, because there are within Rabobank, I've never seen a team that doesn't want to. At this moment, they all want to, but they're too busy being slow, because there's so much business ambition in their pipeline that it does, and so and they need more commitment of management and C-level leadership to be able to just cool down on the business ambition and start working on their foundation.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Okay. You had a final question?
Yeah, I think that the one final question that we have, that we will ask all the guests that we will have in the show, is that can you mention any books or blogs or people or talks that you've seen recently or read recently that really inspired you in this journey?
Yeah, of course. Of course, the Phoenix project is for, I think everybody's watching and hasn't read the Phoenix project, then they should go there. If you look at it from a team perspective, there's the pitfalls of team from Lencioni.
The 5 dysfunctions of a team.
5 dysfunctions of a team.
That's very nice.
It's a very nice book, because it's the main question I love about this book is the question, what's your primary team? As a leadership, if I'm as a manager, I'm working in a management team, of course. But then the question is the team I'm leading, is that my primary team, or is the management team my primary team? If the primary management team is my primary team, then I shouldn't go from only the success of my department, but I should go for the success of the organization as a whole. So on a higher level within organization, you should always go for the combined goal of this. So that's a nice one. And just the foundation of trust and conflict. And this is the very important elements. If you after the Phoenix project, there were 2 other books from the same writers, which is the DevOps Handbook, which just offers you a toolkit, and it's not a recipe, but there's a lot of elements that you can look at and have it does have nice examples of how to adopt DevOps practices. And anyone who has ever performed in one of the DORA DevOps researches and filled in the inquiry they send out every year, they should read the Accelerate book of the DORA Institute, because it just offers a scientific model of how to go to grow towards a high performance IT organization. And the thing I love about it is that it doesn't impose a maturity model. It just assumes that there's always something you can improve to become better.
Thanks.
It is.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I think that's it. Thank you for coming. I think it was a great discussion, and hopefully people who watched also learned from it. Next week we'll be back with a new guest. Manuel Riesenbos will join us. He's an expert on test-driven development, and he will talk with us on test-driven everything, how he uses his test-driven approach on far more than just software development. So hopefully you'll be here next week again, same time, same day. So next week, Tuesday, 7 o'clock Central European time. See you next week.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
All right.
Bye bye.
Stop.
Run.